This is the Unsweetened Truth with Kristen Pucci, where we talk about everything but don't sugarcoat anything. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unsweetened Truth with Kristen Pucci. Today, I have a close friend and colleague, my friend Marissa Bankert. Marissa, thanks so much for coming on.
So excited to be here. Just cannot wait to just have some fun, talk it out. Let's just do it.
F-U-N. Fun.
So much.
So Marissa and I are besties.
For sure.
For sure. We only started becoming friends 5 years ago? 6 years ago? Maybe?
5 years ago.
Yeah. So a lot has happened.
So much.
But why don't you just introduce yourself so everybody gets a sense of who you are?
Sure. So my name is Marissa Bankert, and in my professional life, I run an industry trade association that covers actually across the globe now. So that's really exciting stuff. In my personal life, I am a divorced mom of a 20-year-old. So I have a unique perspective on a lot of different things. Some of my favorite things are, interacting with my friends, spending time with my family, and like Kristen, I really enjoy kind of hearing from other women, talking about some of that kind of stuff, and having some girlhood moments.
Yapping it up.
For sure.
And if there's something about Marissa and I, it's we are constantly dressed for two entirely different occasions.
Truer words have never been spoken.
I said she's in her Marissa Blue.
Had to be.
Had to be. Everyone knows her by Marissa Blue. And I am in my
comfy
snooze. My snooze attire. My podcasting attire. Whatever. You don't listen to me because of the way I look.
Correct.
If you do, sorry.
Yeah.
But today we're going to have a fun topic. We've been on podcasts a couple times together.
For sure.
And we always talk about not boring topics, but professional topics. And when I gave her the little survey, she threw a couple professional topics on there, and then she threw one on that I was like, that's it. Marissa, would you like to share with everyone what that is?
We're going to talk dating today. Ooh, it's so exciting.
Dating. For the girlies, the men are totally going to get something from this today.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Take it as a learning opportunity, gentlemen.
Some tools for your tool belt.
1,000.
Some big things for the shed.
Absolutely.
Things that only we would know.
That's correct.
The women.
Yes.
So what do we want to get started with? We had lots of topics that we had.
Yeah, I love this. So one of the things that I think is really interesting is that we are different ages. So
we are?
I know. Despite what people think.
You're not. We're not the same age.
So because of that, we really date kind of like similarly but different.
Sure.
And based off of experience, being married.
Expectations.
Correct.
Totally different.
Totally different things.
So I'm in my 30s.
Yep. I'm in my 40s.
No, she's not. She's in her 30s. But you're entirely correct.
Yeah.
And as you said before, you're divorced.
Yep.
You have a child.
Correct.
I've never been married. I don't have any kids.
Yep.
And I think we approach it differently. So do you want to talk about how maybe you have approached dating in your season of life that you're in now?
Yeah. So I would say that it's so interesting that you say season of life now, because I've been separated or divorced since 2016, right? So my divorce was finalized in 2019, but I've been separated since 2016.
Sure.
So
a long time.
So how I approach dating now is actually different than how I approached it when I was first separated, and how I approached it, even 3 years ago, right?
Did you go wild?
What did I what?
Did you go wild?
Excuse me.
We talk about everything.
We'll talk about everything here. So what's really interesting about your question is that chronologically, when I first got separated, I didn't. I was celibate for 18 months.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
good for you.
Yeah. So it was really this kind of like, I'm not sure I'm really ready to kind of put myself out there.
Absolutely.
I would kind of talk to someone, but then I was kind of like, meh, like, I don't know. And,
kind of boring.
Sometimes you're just not ready to give up the cookie after it's been, in someone else's possession for a long time. Like, I just wasn't ready for
that. That was a kind way to say it. In someone else's possession. Neglected.
Correct.
Abused.
So I just wasn't really ready for that. But then, to your earlier question, once I realized, and I kind of like learned a little bit more about myself and where I was like, this is not bad. It's not bad to be out here and meeting new people.
No.
So when I first started dating post-divorce, I think I was really focused on not long-term relationships.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, figuring it out. Really just kind of seeing what the market was. What's out there.
And what it is. What it is, ladies and gentlemen.
And I think
it is a market for sure.
It's
sometimes a meat market, sometimes a fish market.
Exactly. But you know what's interesting?
Market.
It reminds me of like an international market that you see like on those cooking shows.
And everyone's like screaming at you to taste their food.
Girl.
The cricket on the stick.
The way that and they're all just vying for attention, right? Like ultimately that's the thing. And they're just like, cricket on a stick, you're fancy? Or are you more of like a,
mango.
Kind of a girly.
Right?
Correct. So like you are really, really inundated with a lot of stuff. So then that's where the real kind of journey kind of begins. The thing I want to say before I pass it off to you to like hear more about like your experience is that what being married, divorcing, and then dating kind of teaches you is some of the things that you like absolutely don't want. You're like your true non-negotiables. And then the navigation of that really like creates this like web of the things that you want in a partner and that you definitively do not want in a partner.
I have a question about that.
I'm ready.
So do you feel as though, because I feel like people would fall into this trap, that like when you get back into dating after being divorced, which is, I'd say like breakups, long-term relationships are probably somewhat similar.
They are.
Right? But like, I feel like when you first come out, do you find that a lot of your list that you've created, if you haven't healed from your relationship, is just, I don't want to be with my ex? And you like do everything possible to not be with them.
100% true.
Okay.
So when I first, that's exactly.
Because that's unhealthy.
Correct. That's what I first did. I was like, not this, not that, not this.
He was blonde.
Correct.
No hair.
Exactly.
5'6".
6'5".
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, I did find that to be true when I first started dating. And then there was a shift kind of along where I switched my list from like the things that I didn't want into like my ideal partner qualities.
Love.
So
it wasn't based on anybody. It was just based on you.
Correct.
Just based on exactly what you needed.
Yep, exactly.
Not what you lacked before or had to.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. What's your experience been out in the marketplace?
Well, mine is like, you know what mine's like? Mine's like the, do you remember that show that was called The Masked Magician?
Can't say as I do, but.
You remember that show? I watched that show all the time. So it was a masked magician, and he did like little magical tricks. And then afterward, he would tell everyone how he did it after the fact.
Right, yeah. Okay.
So I feel like it's a little bit like a look over here, but here's all this.
Here's all the shit.
Yes. And I feel like why I specifically has struggled with dating is I think the age thing definitely kicks in because I've dated people my age and I've also dated people significantly older than me. So there definitely is a different vibe there. But I think that whole, like when you're in your 20s, a guy's whatever part of their brain, probably all of it, hasn't caught up to where a woman's is. Like there's nothing up here yet until like the late 20s. Very true.
100.
And so I think that makes it really difficult. Definitely. But then I think something that was specifically hard for me was that I was never a girlfriend. I was always a wife. So I think...
Skipped that.
Like I have just, and maybe that was because how my mom and my dad's dynamic was. I think that's just who I am really at my core. Like, I am a wife.
Yeah.
I am not the girlfriend who's like playing games and wants to, and not that all girlfriends play games, but you know what I mean? Like this could go longer, this couldn't go longer, this could, right. And it was to a fault that I was so loyal and so committed and so this and so that like I was giving wife things to the guy with nothing up here. Oof. And it was very dangerous, one, for me to be doing that. I just wasn't, my needs weren't being met. It's hard to meet someone who's also in that place too.
Yeah.
Because I think for, like, if it's a man to be there already, great. Maybe he's kind of there because I'm just there through just experience in life. And I've always been a wiser, old soul type person. So meeting somebody there has been really, really difficult. So I would say the challenge with dating has been that intention, like having intentional dating. And I know from a sense that this is definitely a generational thing as well, because I'll have like conversations with my dad or with other people, and they're like, oh my gosh, men don't ask you on dates anymore. And I don't want to just yell at the guys, because the girls are at fault too.
1,000.
Like, the girls are at fault. I got 2 brothers.
Yeah.
I've seen what the ladies can do.
Same.
But like, I just think that people just don't have any intention, like there's no intention in the dating, and there's that pursuit I think is missing. Like, I believe a lot in like the feminine and masculine energy. I live in my masculine all day. I don't want to. So I think like men, I think realizing how much effort you have to put into it, which really isn't all that much. It's just intentional effort. It's just intentional effort. I haven't experienced a bunch of. So I've gotten myself into some pretty bad situations, some pretty bad relationships, because I've been that type of person operating that way, committed to people that I probably shouldn't have been so committed to, pouring so much into people I probably shouldn't have been. But I'm also at the same time too, because like some people could be like, oh, you know, you get that feedback of you're picky or you whatever. There's something about getting into your 30s that you care a lot less about things. But you do get a little bit of that, like, am I a spinster? Am I going to be a spinster?
Oh, no. Yeah, but legit, because that's what society is telling you.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're like, oh, well, you don't want to be a traditional wife, but you can't be all obsessed with your career. You can't be. It's like trying to figure out, like, what, not that you want to make anybody else happy, but it's also like you're constantly checking yourself.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? So being 31, literally 2 days ago for me, like, I'm still single. I'm not getting married in the foreseeable future.
Right.
I have no children.
Right.
There's things that start ticking.
Sure.
Specifically with children.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I just think dating overall for me has been very interesting. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about other people. Mostly about myself, which probably is also about other people. But I think that's been the hardest thing for me. Yeah. Is being ready to be a wife. Dating a bunch of boyfriends.
Yes. And picking up on that and going back to your kind of original statement about like okay, well, they're doing this over here and then this is, you know, the reality.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that.
We're going to right now.
Let's go.
Why I think that that's so interesting in your dynamic is because you immediately are just like putting your authentic self out there. You're just like, here's all of me, right? Like, because I want you to see me as a potential person. You're a potential person, right?
Well,
like,
I also want to deter you too.
Sure.
Like, that's something that I'm okay with now that I maybe wasn't before. Yeah. But now I'm very okay with, like, this is me. If you don't like how assertive I am, how aggressive I am, how loud I am when I laugh, how many friends I have, like, if you don't like how much all of this is.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of my favorite sayings, elimination just as good as confirmation.
Say it again. Say it again.
Elimination, just as good as confirmation.
That's good.
And so that's what you're saying, right? Like it's worth the 2 weeks on the random guy that you're kind of talking to, and then you kind of go out on a couple dates, and you're like, well, this is it. Like, I hope you can. And they're like, oof. It's like, okay, great. I'm so glad to have identified it 2 weeks in, not 2 years in.
Sure, good.
Really like that.
Really good.
Really, really like that.
I agree.
And I think that is, to your point, a big shift that happens as you get older, where your give a fucks goes way down.
Oh, Drastic.
Because you are more satisfied with who you are, and you want someone to be with you for who you are, not for the facade. Touching on the facade.
Shall we? Touch on the masked portion of the masked magician.
I am telling you, that is so alive and well. And that 90-day marker, it could not be more like true in my mind.
Yeah. You have to date someone for a specific period of time without getting hooked up in a bunch of stuff and intertwined.
Yes.
You need to figure out who they are.
Absolutely. And they will show you.
They will. Just keep your freaking eyes open.
They will show you.
Keep your ears open. Keep your eyes open.
Within 90 days. But
they tell on themselves.
Oh, girl.
They tell on themselves. You don't have to ask. You don't have to look. You don't have to search. We have this beautiful intuition that just goes, something ain't right.
That's right.
And then you don't even have to figure out what it is.
No.
It just shows up.
It reveals.
It reveals. You get a hey girly.
You do get a hey girly.
You get a hey girly on day 29 of day 30. And you go,
yes.
Didn't even have to look.
Exactly. Or there's an event that happens.
Oh.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is how you handle these events?
Oh. Or you get in like a slight conflict. So my therapist always says that she always wants to know, like when I introduce a new guy to the, conversation, she's like, she likes about 2-3 months in, she wants to know if we've had a conflict.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to see how you guys deal with conflict. And if you have completely no conflict, like no conflict, no disagreements, she's like,
yeah, is it?
That's not real. Yeah. Like, that's literally not real. Either people are hiding things, keeping secrets, or we're just avoiding shit. Or both, And it's impossible. That's a relationship.
Correct. The facade thing, right? Like, it's fine. Everything is fine.
I'm a cool girl.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. You said you're going to be here at 7, you're here at 10. Oh.
Lies.
No big deal. Oh, I don't, it doesn't bother me.
I'm not that kind
you're
of a
girl best friend.
Yeah. I'm not that kind of a girl.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Sure am.
Sure am that kind of a girl.
I'm crazy.
Yes.
But I'm not just walking through daily life.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, you can't convince me of anything. That's something nice about dating now. You can't convince me of anything. I used to be convincible.
Yeah.
The facade thing.
Yeah.
I used to be convinced. I used to question myself. Now I'm so sure of who I am, which I know we're going to get into that stuff later.
Yeah.
About like heart work. But like, I am so sure of who I am now that I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And will I maybe take a little too long trying to figure out why it's not right or get an answer or whatever? I think all women do, right? Because
Totally.
like you don't want to throw in the bag. You don't want to try. You got connected. You got hooked.
That's
you got
right.
whatever. We're gonna exhaust all efforts.
Yeah.
Until we let go of it. But
yeah,
good thing and a bad thing, I guess. About women.
I think so. And I would say a difference too in our ages is the other, and you alluded to this earlier, the other considerations, right? So not everyone, but typically women in their 40s probably have children or they have other, kind of responsibilities and things like that. So navigating through those things, it really does come with like a level of confidence about what it is that you want. Like I have dated men that have young children and my child is not young. And it is not something that I think I want to
Why don't you tell us how you feel?
Well,
this isn't going to Forbes. I mean, it could.
It could.
But
well, here's the thing.
Tell us.
I am at a stage in my life where I don't want to take care of someone else's children because I've already raised my child.
You don't have to.
And that's the beauty of where I am and dating as you get older, where you're more established likely in your career, in your life, in your relationships. And you want to restart
and do it all over again.
Sure don't.
My friend raised exactly like this. Same exact thing. She's like, I raised those kids. I did it already. Yeah. I sacrificed however many years of it. I don't want to start and do it all again for somebody else's kids. Now, does that mean that I'm a bad mother? Because saying that to them, though, my God, you might as well kick him in the balls. But like,
yep. I think that there's
that's okay. Like I have tried to date multiple people with children. I can't do it. I've tried 3 times now.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I cannot do it.
I'm great with like, they're big. They can make their own, they can.
Maybe. Maybe. But then there's a dynamic with the ex-wife and the whole, like, there's just a lot happening there that I just am not the right person for that.
Yeah. I love that acknowledgement.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm too assertive.
Yeah.
I'm too aggressive. I'm so protective.
Protective is the thing.
Like, I'm going to make those babies my babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the greater good of the babies.
Yeah.
Not because they.
Yeah.
But meeting another woman that has that same, like, greater good of the whole was very challenging.
Yeah.
And even dating the dad of the greater good of the whole was very difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Or at least in the beginning, again, with the facade, they say, oh, well, I think this. So this is what we're going to leave you with on this one, then we're skipping to another topic. Take your time.
Totally.
In the beginning. Don't get sucked right into it.
Yeah.
Because you need to learn who this person is.
And I think that's applicable across the ages.
Both.
Yeah.
And both genders, too.
That's
like,
right.
that male, female, like, you guys, everybody, take your time.
Yep.
Say things.
Yep. And I think, like, understand who you are and where you are in your phase of life.
Mm-hmm.
And make a determination about what are the things that you actually want. Like, really think about, to your point, not the things you don't, like, yes, the things you don't want are important, but think about them in the way of, like, what are the ideal qualities I want in someone? Yes. And that's what we're really searching for.
I just thought of a sign that I saw the other day that's, like, doubling down on what you just said. So I don't remember where I was, but I think I was in a city somewhere. And the people had a sign in their front window that said, teach your kids not to hate. When it's like, why don't we just teach them to love?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, it's taking such the negative approach of, like, why don't be so focused on, I don't want someone with this. Because then you're so laser focused on that instead of being like, no, I don't want someone who chews their food weird. Table manners.
You know what we love?
Table
manners.
We love table manners.
Yeah.
I just thought of another thing I want to tell the people, though.
Yeah.
A tip.
I'm ready.
And I don't want this to be a bunch of tips, but something that really, really was helpful was that I've been in a lot of unhealthy, arguably not narcissistic relationships with the facade. That has been something that's been very big to me. A tip that if you seem to find yourself in relationships like that over and over and over again, and you're like, nah. One thing is the common denominator is you. One.
Preach.
The second thing is when someone asks you, what are you looking for? Do not tell them. That's not tell them.
Great.
Say, instead of being like, I'm looking for someone like this and I want him to be career-oriented, just say, I'll know it when I see it. Yeah. I got a whole things I'm looking for, but I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
And if they push on that,
red flag. Yeah.
You don't want, anybody can mold into, oh, well, she wants somebody. If they want to be with you bad enough, they will figure out how to be whatever those things are. But again, you just told them. Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. I'll just comment on that briefly.
We got lots of time. Go for it.
Is that
sun will go down. We've got a light. We could be here all night. They won't know any difference. This could be part 1, part 2.
For your audience, I have a list.
Yes.
And so
a list is good.
Yes.
Can you clarify what's on that list and keep going?
Sure. So the list is those qualities that I was talking about before, or traits, kind of things. I don't have them in the sense of like ranked in any way. I don't even have them listed as like non-negotiables or anything like that, kind of going to your point. But I do have some things that I'm like, if they're not this, I can't be with them.
Like brown hair.
Correct.
You'll survive.
Yeah, correct. But if you are unkind, right? Like if you treat wait staff poorly, we are not a match.
Yeah, that's good.
That is not something that's going to fly with me at all.
Yeah.
So my point in saying that is that I have oftentimes had men say that kind of thing. And I say exactly kind of what you just said, which is that like, oh, I definitely have ideal qualities that I'm looking for. Oh, tell me about them, and I'll say something like, okay, well, like one of the things is like, I need to be with a man that likes sports because I like sports.
That's very basic. That's very easy.
Correct.
That's not, you can't manipulate someone in sports.
Exactly.
You can find out pretty quick.
And this girl for sure can. Like if you're like, I like sports, and then I'm like, What did you think about the Super Bowl last year? Like, tell me a little bit about, how you felt like, Kelsey played during the Super Bowl. And then they're like, say what? And even a Taylor Swift fan knows that by now. But still, like,
I didn't though.
But if they like have no frame of reference, we got problems.
This is funny. I would have told myself. This is what I mean. I would have told myself. I was dating a guy last year that he was big into like sports betting and stuff like that, and he had teams. And he's like, "You should help me pick mine this time." And I was like, "Okay." I don't know anything about any of these people. I don't even know what position they play. I don't know anything about them. So he just starts listing off names, and he goes, "All right, Kelsey." And I was like, "They let girls play now?" And when I tell you, I was
dead
serious. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
You were like,
I was like, there was a female kicker on our football team in high school.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, it's a guy. It was so, I was like, pick that one.
That one.
I know. Now I love him, but that's funny. All right, what else we got on here? We got good topics.
All right, let's see what else we've got on here. Well, do we want to keep it light, or do we want to go into some of the things that we were just talking about?
Yeah, the guest. What would you like to do?
Well, I think it's really interesting to talk about, so we talked about like those differences, and then in that conversation we were talking about like, well, now. Well, like, right, the reference was, well, now.
Oh, what we did before, what we do now. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, in just thinking about, like, what have we learned in dating that, like, we would never do again? Like, we used to do. That was, like, a common thing that we did, and now is something that we would never do. When I say that to you, what's the first thing that springs to mind for you?
Put them before myself. Yeah, I was more in love with people than they were in love with me. Yeah. And then I was in love with me.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I don't believe in that from like a selfish standpoint, but like I think there was a thought that I thought that if I just love them a little bit more, maybe they would. I thought it was like reciprocal.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, they're not loving me enough. So maybe if I give them a little bit more, they'll give me more love. And like, that's just never the case. If anything, it's typically the opposite.
Yeah.
The more you pull back and the more you pull away, Yeah. And I just found myself chasing these people. Mm-hmm. I would just chase and chase and chase and chase. And like, but that came from like a very hurt and which I think is why I would not do it now. I was very hurt. I was very broken. I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to be loved. So I would that was the thing. That was the wound. That was I don't want to be unloved. I want to prove it to myself that I am lovable. So if I can love you more and do more and whatever, you will love me more. And like, that's not the case. And it's funny now that if I get any whiff of like, I have to chase them. Yeah. I got to come after you. Yeah. I've got to, you are not my man. Like you are not it. Yeah. If I have to just in any capacity chase, I have to level up because you haven't talked to me in however long, I'll be like, if you reach back out to me, the next day, I'll be like, okay, clearly we're not interested. Mm-hmm. There's obviously one circumstance that didn't necessarily apply to, but there's a lot of background stuff there. But I would say that was probably a big one for me. I have many more, but what do you think?
I think that the first thing that comes to mind for me is how I handle like confrontation inside of relationships.
Tell me about that.
So I would say that like a big one for me is that I will never again inside of a relationship ice out my partner and like stop communicating with them and doing all of that kind of stuff because first of all, it's ineffective. It is
for both parties.
Wholly ineffective.
You don't feel better.
You don't feel better. They don't know anything that's going on, right? So they can't make change. They can't help you in any way. They can't, be helpful to themselves in regards to all of that kind of stuff. And it just kind of kicks the can down the road. Like it never addresses exactly what's happening or anything like that. So for me, I would just never do that again inside of a relationship because it serves no purpose. It serves absolutely zero purpose in, kind of what is actually you're looking for, which is when you're in that confrontational space, you want to feel heard, you want to feel loved, and you want to feel safe. And I wasn't, creating those kinds of things. I think I was doing it in a very self-protective way, right?
Like it wasn't malicious.
No.
You were an avoidant.
Correct.
You were an avoidant.
Yeah.
And so it was being an avoidant is a false sense of comfort.
Yes, correct.
You're convinced that if you just, well,
and the other thing is about icing someone out is that, for me, it felt like, well, I'm going to get you, right? I'm going to punish you by not giving you access
to me.
Yeah, exactly. But in truth, like, again, it's not solving anything. And then you're withholding from yourself.
Because you're not getting your needs met either. That's another one. May I say another?
Of course.
Being okay with not getting your needs met.
You were okay with it.
I was okay with it.
Yeah.
And I would gaslight myself into thinking that I was too needy.
Yeah.
Or that, like, I didn't need the things that I wanted. Like, Kristen, okay, that might be too much. You might be too... and that came from a variety of things. But just thinking, like, okay. I remember thinking to myself, like, with dating some people, that I would hold them to the standard that I would be holding myself to, Oof. But then think that that was unfair.
Oof.
And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
How is it possible that you are able to uphold these standards? Your friends are able to uphold these standards. Other people around you to uphold these standards, but not the guy that you're with.
Yeah.
And just being okay with that, letting it slide.
Yeah.
Which would lead me to my next one. Ignoring red flags until it got so bad that either physical abuse was happening, emotional abuse was happening, or it was so loud. Because I don't know if it was from like stubbornness or that like, don't believe me or I want to be like, I don't know exactly where that comes from because I don't do it anymore per se, but like that, that was.
Yeah. That's my next one too is
a big one.
Is ignoring red flags.
Yeah.
Like, people show you who they are. Like, even with the facade, they still show you who they are. It's in microbursts. It's in microdosing, kind of a something. But, like, the first time you get that feeling and you're like, ooh, like, that's no good.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to your point about how they chew their food. That for sure can be an ick to you. Like, I totally get all of those things.
We're talking in an argument. They like drastically raise their voice and throw something across the room.
Absolutely.
And then they come back to you the next day and go, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I just got a little.
Yeah. Or honestly, like, think about it in those, even if it's something that's quieter, but they name call.
I hate a name call.
That's what I mean.
I hate a name call.
So like that, when someone calls you out of your name, that's with intention. It's with intention.
That's good.
So that's why it's really important to like not ignore that as a red flag. Like
or they like say something in a fight. Ooh. Oh, that's like heavy. That you're like, damn, how long you been thinking that?
How long you been holding that one in?
Okay, like, do you really feel like? But like, there's some truth to the words that come out of your mouth when you're angry, and if they're so outlandish or so, I would say like just that the red flag thing, and like you don't need to see 3 red flags to realize it's correct. A red flag. Like they don't need to. I'm allowing you and giving you. Permission to not have to stay for the 3rd red flag. Be like, the first red flag was like an off pink.
Yeah.
Second flag was a little darker. 3rd, I am bleeding from my forehead.
Yeah, right.
Like, you don't have to get
That's right.
to the 3rd red flag to realize it's a red flag.
And going back to what you said, too, about the, like, how long you stay and, like, all of that kind of thing, this is great for people, I think, to digest and hear that it's okay for you to just not be okay with that behavior and end it right there.
Yes.
And you don't have to say why you ended it. You don't have to do any of those kinds of, you don't have to defend yourself and why that's uncomfortable for you or anything like that. It can just be like, I no longer feel safe and comfortable in this relationship and I'm choosing to end it. That's it. Yep. And that's enough for the other person. You don't need if they're,
not crazy. If they're crazy, they'll be at your front door. You thought you were going to ghost me.
They'll find you at your office.
Little email. Hey. Oh, block me on email? Let me call. Oh, block you on that? Let me make a new phone number to contact you.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. What's something else that you wouldn't do that you've done in the past? I have one, but it's off color. It's not deep and emotional.
If my friends don't like the person.
Yeah.
side with the person or stop telling my friends about things that he's doing to try to mitigate and make them like him more.
Yeah.
There is something to having to lie about the man that you're with to make your friends like him.
You better say it.
What?
That is for real, for real.
It's so true.
When you start having to omit or to alter because you know
it does not sound good coming out.
And you know your friends are going to be like,
what the fuck?
Like when they are giving you the cockeyed head, that's
a time to reflect for yourself, sister, and go, why am I omitting these details? Because what can happen if you don't pick up on that is you will separate yourself from your girlfriends.
Totally.
Which is probably exactly what the guy wants.
Absolutely.
You're going to separate yourself from your girlfriends.
Yep.
And then you're going to only be surrounded by him. And then you're going to completely lose everything.
When don't you feel like that what you've done in the past, and I've done it too, is that you lose yourself in that whole thing. And then you kind of like emerge at some point, and the dude's been living his life. Yes.
You can leave on the first red flag and you don't need to apologize to anyone for it.
Yep.
You can just leave.
Yep. It's so good. It's really, really good.
I agree.
The thing that I was going to say that is not deep and profound.
It's okay. All are good.
That I won't repeat again is in dating is to become dickmatized. I just won't let it happen anymore. Ladies, there's plenty to go around. Like, don't let that be the thing that keeps you in a relationship. And I think I think I have made that mistake many times, if I'm being candid, where I was like,
well, you get sucked into those. And that's why, like, I think you're supposed to be patient and you're supposed to wait and you're supposed to, like, I could say this. Those 18 months that you were celibate, impossible for you to get dickmatized.
That is 100%
impossible.
Correct.
Like, if you were to eliminate sex and alcohol from dating, you'd eliminate 90% of the problems.
Clarity.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You would eliminate 90% of the problems.
But I think that this goes back to something that you were saying, which for me was like a pretty like consistent thing, was that like, I was like, but that feels so good. And by extension, like it would linger into me ignoring other things, right? Because I was like, physically that feels so good. And I am a very affectionate person. And so I think that it was that feeling of like the affection piece where I was ignoring red flags. I was like, but this part is so great, right? Like, in thinking about cycles of behaviors and things like that. And the thing about that is that that's often accompanied with romantic gestures, right? Like some of those.
Perhaps love bombing.
Yes, love bombing, those types of things. So that is something that I will not do again. I will not be dickmatized.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Super, super good.
Yeah. Getting intimate before you know them.
Yeah, correct. While we're talking about some red flags, what are some fun red flags? And by that I mean like you kind of like look at them and you're like, red flag.
Like it's just so you're like, I got a good one.
Yeah.
So there was a date that I went on with a guy.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's gonna see this. I think he follows me on social media.
Well,
we were on a date. I think it was a date. I don't know. The whole thing was weird. I think it was a date. He told me that I mean, if it was a date, it wasn't a date after this.
Correct.
Being too close with their mom. Oof. We want you to like your mom. We want you to have a good relationship with mom. How you treat your mother is probably how you're going to treat me.
Absolutely, 100%.
However, should you live right next door to your mother?
Maybe we need some distance.
A mile. Minimum. 2 miles if you want to be crazy. But like, little distance, physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
Like, and that dynamic with the mom even back. Yeah. Like that toxic mother-son thing sends chills down my spine.
Yeah.
And that the guy like flaunts it.
Yeah, like it's a thing. Like, look at it.
Look at my mom. Oh, I have such a good relationship with my
good
mom, and I
relationship
did
with
it, and my mom, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and I bought a house right next to my parents, and it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Little distance.
don't like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't like that one.
That's
What
a
about
good
you?
Conspiracy theories?
Okay.
That's going to be like an immediate red flag for me. I'm like, I can go down a good rabbit hole. If you know me, you know I love a good documentary. I'm about learning, understanding, all of that kind of thing.
Yes.
But, you know, if you're a flat earther and you are saying that it's a conspiracy that, you know, like we believe that the world is round, we might not be able to move forward.
I understand that.
There's not going to be a date number 2.
I got another one.
I'm ready.
We're going to have fun with this for a little bit.
We sure are.
How they hold their fork.
Like a caveman?
Like this.
Like a toddler.
Like you've never eaten. Or you haven't eaten in a day.
By the way, she's gesturing for those that are just listening. Like.
Yeah, for those just listening, picture how you'd hold a shovel.
Because you're shoveling it into your mouth.
And it's like you've just never eaten before.
Yeah.
And you are just like bad table manners. I don't need you to know what every single silverware thing does from 5 out in. Okay, we don't need you. But how to hold a fork?
Yeah.
And like the, like please.
It's bad. It's very bad.
Because what I'm thinking about is not just like, oh my gosh, you're below me. It's, I'm a businesswoman. We're going to have to go out to dinners. We're going to have to go on meetings. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. Do you know how to dress?
That's another red flag. How you show up.
How you show up.
Yeah.
Do you know how to dress?
Correct.
I got to bring you around me. Please, please, please.
Don't embarrass
Don't embarrass me. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, that's what I'm putting, like, but I think like something with eating, like you've been eating since you come out the womb. You've been using a baby fork before you used a big fork.
Yeah.
Or maybe we skipped right to the shovel. I don't know. But like we eating, like like manners, you know, like that.
Totally. Yeah. I think that the manners is a good one. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of like another fun one that's just like, oof. I mean, for me, the red flag is almost always going to come down to a smooch, like in the sense of like
Marissa and a smooch. We love Marissa and a smooch.
If the smooch is like
bad,
a cow's tongue, you know what I mean?
That's such a good
yes.
Or a giraffe that it just wraps around your neck.
You're like, what is? Or speaking of that, like then they're
God.
like they kind of like kiss all over your face, like.
We're talking about a first kiss, mind you.
First smooch. Because if it's a red flag, goodbye.
We don't need to kiss 3 times to find out it's a bad kiss.
Don't.
It's bad kiss on kiss number 1.
We just need one time of that, and I am like, ooh, like it's not good.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's a.
If you have a bad kiss, everything else is bad.
Agreed.
Everything else is bad.
Everything else is bad. That is correct. Yikes. That's super, super good.
I just thought of one.
I'm ready.
Like, if they're like, this might be just something exclusively for me, though. I don't think so.
Let's talk about it.
Like, that's the point of the podcast. Let's talk about it. Everything. Like, when they're like a little too focused on the cost of the date. Like, I went on a date with a guy one time that he was like, I think it would be a better value. And I literally was just, I heard that when he was like going through the menu and I just like shriveled up. Like, oh my God. It was so like the word value. Like, are we at Kmart? Like,
legit.
Sam's Club.
Are we doing price per ounce right now?
A better value. I was like, okay, coupon shopper, relax. But like, I get it. But like, that's why I'm not trying to like make fun of the people that are like, no, it's just the way that like we were cross comparing the things on the menu to figure out the best value, which like then makes me think I'm going to a Chinese food buffet. Like, how much food can we get for the least amount of money? And it's like,
yeah. I think the red flag is actually just like not fully enjoying the experience because you're being so cost conscious.
Well, just like social cues, brother.
Yeah, but I think like that's the thing, right? Like, if your budget isn't at that place,
or
don't take me to that place.
Yes. Yes.
Don't.
And that's something all in itself that men need to know, that it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the expensive date and the this. I went on a date with a man who spent $700 on our first date. $700. You know how much I spend in therapy to get over the man who spent $700 on our first date? Thousands, okay?
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with the amount of money. It is
Totally
the intention. It is the time. Now, does a woman want to be taken care of? Does she want to be provided for? Do we want to be restricted? No. But I understand being within your means, but we aren't sitting here analyzing.
That's right.
The value of the date.
No, we're not doing that. We're not looking at price per ounce. We're just not going to do that.
We're not.
That's a red flag.
It made us laugh, though.
Yeah,
it's
sure
a
does.
good story for the podcast.
It's a really, really good story for the podcast. I don't even know. Like, I think by this point, like, my red flags are either, full on, like, oof, like, that's super bad.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel, like, emotionally unsafe in some way, or there's like something like that that's like, whoop, red flag, like no good.
Yeah.
Versus being kind of lighthearted, because I now, thank you social media, I am fully committed to the ick. The ick, the internal feeling that you feel when you like first encounter someone and spend time with them, or even if you're just in like the chatting phase and like you hear something, their voice, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like I am now fully committed to the ick.
Do you think you can come back from an ick?
Ooh, it's so hard.
Like if it's small.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Because it's
Give me an example. Because for me, an ick is so off-putting. Like, see how my mouth just did?
You were like, I ate something gross.
It is like, ew. I never want to experience that again.
That's a lot.
In my life. That's
so what's
an
like?
ick for
Okay, so
me.
what's like down lower than an ick? What's like?
What is down lower than an ick?
Carol came up with a word called an irk. Like, but that's like kind of angry. Like it irks me versus it icks me. You know what I mean? But like, what about like, what's lower than an ick? What's like if they do something you're just like, I just don't love that. But like every time they do it, you're just kind of like, okay, but like you shrug it off and like
yeah. I don't know, maybe like maybe a rub. You know what I mean?
A
like
rub.
Yeah, it's like a little rub. It's like it doesn't feel great, but it's not like
stabbing me.
Yeah, it's not like stabbing me. It's not like making me want to throw up like an egg.
Just feel a little nausea.
Yeah, exactly.
Little ginger gummy can figure that out.
Exactly.
Pop some Tums. That it could be real going quick.
Do you have you tried to come back from an ick? Like
I have.
Okay, how did it go?
Not with the guy.
Not well.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. I think you've kind of mentioned this earlier about that like gut feeling, those intrinsic kind of things that just kind of happen. And you don't have to label them in any way. They can just be like, hey, here's how I feel. And they can be trivial, right? Like in some part, or they can be very serious.
I mean, like your partner is going to do things that you don't love everything your partner does.
Absolutely not.
You don't love everything your partner does. And they're going to do things that you're like...
And same for them.
Like there's like laughs before. Like there's like a type of laugh that you're like, oh my God, that's a lot. But then like
literally... Y'all are getting a taste right now.
Like that there might be like an octave or a face that you're like, relax. That might appear to be unattractive.
Right.
To your significant other.
Yeah.
Can you live with it?
Correct.
Sure.
Well,
Does it make me want to jump your bones? Not today.
So yeah. No.
Go ahead.
No, I think that there's something too also like, where does the thing come from, right? Like, so specifically with laughter, like, if you know that that's like a joyous thing, like, even if it's kind of annoying, then it almost becomes a little bit cute, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God, like, oh, I can tell now that
He's
person...
gonna snort. Wait for it, everyone.
Exactly.
It's coming.
Exactly.
Not, oh, there it is.
Exactly.
No, you're right. You can like laugh about it and make it funny.
Yeah, for sure.
I think sometimes in my head, though, I make something like that way worse than it actually needs to be.
Yeah.
We talked about this
We
a bit.
did.
I tried to talk about it with my
this.
therapist today, but I ran out of time. So only got 40 minutes.
A lot on the
45,
plate.
sorry.
A lot on
Had to
the
catch her
plate.
about 2 weeks. We usually go every week.
Yeah.
35 of it was catching her up.
Yeah. I do think that there is something to, are you creating something because you're looking for a red flag that maybe isn't there?
Yeah.
And,
I think a lot of people have embarrassed me. I think that's where it's coming from. As I'm sitting here on this podcast, we are healing.
Yeah.
We are finding self-awareness. I think a lot of people have embarrassed me.
With their behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think I have, dude, that's it. You know when you like say something and
Totally.
it releases you from it?
Yeah.
I have been embarrassed by so many people's behavior before and just things that they've done that I will do everything and anything to not be embarrassed by somebody again.
Yeah.
So it's almost less than like if I'm okay with it, but if somebody else saw you do that, how would they interpret that?
Yeah, that's really, really good stuff. Yeah, I have a
Julie,
thing.
I don't need a session next week because we just figured it out on the pod.
Exactly.
We just figured it out.
And I think that that's something that not all people feel, but I think that women who are in powerful positions, public positions, that kind of a thing. And by the way, that's, again, not gender exclusive. Men certainly would feel the same way.
For sure.
I can't take Stella to that thing because whenever she drinks, this happens.
She takes her clothes off.
She takes her clothes. Tequila makes her clothes fall off.
Can't do that at a conference.
Right. So I think that those are the considerations, and I think you're right that embarrassment piece is a big, big, big thing for sure.
Yeah, but I've probably also been around a bunch of judgy people too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot.
There is. There's a lot.
Red flags. I feel like I got one more in me.
Okay, let's talk about it. I'm trying to think of like a red flag that we have discussed amongst our group.
This isn't a red flag. This is something I hate.
I can't wait.
Slides.
Excuse me?
Those freaking shoes that men wear, Adidas, you need to be shot.
That's a rub for you?
Marissa. It's not for you. If you have not put those slides in the closet after you graduated high school football and or basketball and or lacrosse,
I want to go on the record.
Get rid of them.
I want to go on the record right now and say to our male listeners.
Every woman feels like this.
No, they don't. And
everyone but Marissa.
And it's okay to wear comfortable shoes post-workout as you go to the laundry. Like, come on.
Fair. Let's unpack that more.
Yeah.
Sure, you can do that.
Yeah.
Don't wear them to my house.
Okay, great.
Wear them where I will never see them.
Great.
And if I don't know about them, I can't get the ick.
How do you feel about a slipper?
A man slipper?
Yeah. Yeah.
Clarify. My father wears slippers. I'm okay with his.
All right, great. So like a little house shoe of some sort.
My dad wore house shoes, so I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It's like a bathrobe. My grandpa was big into bathrobes and house shoes, so I think it was like it's in my family. So I'm okay with
think that generationally, slides have become house shoes. I'm not saying that they are Okay.
Shouldn't be. My dad has these nice like LL Bean Orvis.
Yeah, sure.
Leather house shoes.
Yeah.
Do not compare that to Adidas. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
They crack and they keep them. Those little pegs that come up out of the bottom, when 3/4 of them are missing, throw them out. The pair originally was $25. You can save that from the value on the menu and get a new pair of slides. You'll be all right.
So for clarification, that's a red flag for you?
No.
It's a rub.
No. I started it by saying it's not a red flag, but it's something funny I just thought.
Yeah. Okay, good.
No.
Just making sure.
Now, if somebody showed up on like a first date with those, brother, not good.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't like them.
No, yeah.
They're just gross.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
No.
I will say that some of my red flags that I've had to kind of like not get over because that's doing a disservice to the red flag, but I've modified behaviors around. So you and I had this conversation recently in regards to like marijuana. That used to be a massive red flag for me. It's just not my vibes for Marissa. Marissa chooses not to do that. But that was like a massive red flag. And the story that I tell is that I was on a first date with a guy. We were having great conversation. I would say mild chemistry.
Mild.
Right? Like
no smooch yet.
No,
we don't know.
No smooch yet. We were not there.
Okay.
And he was like, do you do marijuana in any capacity?
Do you do marijuana?
You know what I mean? See,
do you do it?
Clearly, Marissa does not.
In your slides.
Ingest it in any way. And I was like, no, I do not. And he was like, well, I do sometimes, sometimes I will either, smoke or take a gummy or something like that. And I was like, it has been such a pleasure.
I want to talk about that. Can we talk about that?
Of course.
I see why that would give you the ick.
Yeah.
It's like video games.
Oh.
I think we associate them to video games. Here's why.
Red flag.
Yeah, but red flag.
Massive.
You left the video game. I'll give it to you in college.
Correct.
You graduate college.
Goodbye.
They're gone. Now, the marijuana thing.
Yeah.
I think we associate marijuana to being like high on the couch, getting nothing done, unproductive. That's 100%. Why I related it to video games.
Yep. Correct.
So I think there's still an association of like, I get high and I just sit there and I just stare at the crack in the wall because it's talking to me, right? Like,
totally.
That might be a little more than marijuana for the crack in the wall to start talking to you.
But nonetheless.
We're unmotivated.
You were unmotivated.
Focused on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's that association.
I agree.
To it. Because I see that.
Yeah.
Like I'm even like that. And I'm a little bit more flexible on, some things. But yeah, if it's like a lifestyle, maybe.
Well, and I think it can become a flag if then you see other behaviors that corroborate your feelings surrounding that, right? Okay, so I don't love that. And you sleep in until
noon on the weekends. You grow pot in your basement. Not good.
You know
We're
what?
selling it.
It's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I've really softened on that because of some of the things that you just articulated, which is
Sure.
that I'm around a lot of people.
If you're like a highly motivated
mindset.
individual or whatever, and it's something you do on the weekends.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've really changed my mindset on it. But that's what I mean about a flag that I've kind of like evaluated.
Yeah.
And said,
is it that, or is it something related to that and
Correct.
associated with that? And it sounds like it might have been more what was associated with it.
I would 100% say that is true.
Love.
Yeah.
Great
So I think that's going to like, maybe our next thing.
Maybe.
Which is the growth that we have had that then has allowed us to kind of be in more productive relationships. I would say overall. I know we're talking about dating.
Oh, everything.
But
relationships in general. Agreed.
Yeah. Totally agree. So like that's one of those things where I've been able to kind of look at things and been like, okay, let's reevaluate, And to your point, like, is my reaction to the thing, or is it to my experience with it? Like, what?
Can I just tell you something funny?
Of course.
I was just sitting here getting comfortable, and I was like, oh no, she might think I'm not getting anything done, and I'm too lazy. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm just kidding. No, I love that. I think that's good.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Unsweetened Truth Podcast. Make sure to listen next week for part 2 of this episode with Marissa.